Okay, wanted to talk about how to get started actually building one of these things, because obviously this is a lot of, these are kind of the required design decisions that you need to make, but you don't need to do them all at once. So what I've tried to do is break them into 3 or 4 stages so that the task at each stage is a little bit simpler. Version 1, I believe, is basically preparing. So this is going through your own kind of design, decisions, deciding what your members need, how you understand them, the journey you're going to help them on, and the kind of space and the tools, the community home that you want to build to support that behavior. The member context stuff is basically, we've talked about that already, so there's other videos about it. I won't go into it too much. The community home, I've changed this one a little bit. So space design, this is both spaces to support the core member interaction and also spaces to contain and hide away undesirable interactions, giving people a place to kind of safely self-promote where it doesn't create a lot of noise for others. The knowledge base, I think, doesn't need to be created at the very beginning, because what's going to happen is later on, once you start running events and your heartbeat, that material is going to feed back in and get captured as your knowledge base. So eventually the knowledge base becomes a part of the community home, but you don't need that up front. So this is version 0. It's your preparation. The choice of tools and platforms, I think, is really important because it informs what's going to be easy. It informs the types of spaces you're going to create. It informs the member interactions that are easy and the heartbeats that you can support. So you want that to be subservient to the other stuff that you need. Cool. After that, V1, this is where you start actually being able to bring in real members. So onboarding is a crucial piece to this, right? Because when people show up, the most important thing is that they can see the map. You've planned the map of what their journey is going to be like, and you've given them a set of doable initial actions which create meaningful wins. This, I think, is a crucial design decision, and it comes directly out of all of the work you've done on your member context. So you basically look at their aspirational moments, their goal, their wins and milestones, and the necessary habits and behaviors, and you're looking for some of them that can be achieved quickly, ideally within 30 minutes, as Kim Sia mentioned, Kathy Sierra talking about, and which kind of are going to fit within your tools and your spaces, and ideally which don't rely on a ton of other people being there, because you're not going to have critical mass early on. In the case of the authors community, this first win is basically publicly announcing the book and then receiving meaningful feedback. In the case of the OOC community, it is probably going to be something like declaring your member context. So over time, I don't think I have that in place yet. So what I'm going to need to do is probably create some additional support and materials, maybe a little interactive worksheet or workshop or something to allow people to, I don't know, make some progress, because right now it's not there. I don't feel like the current intros are acting as a meaningful first win. So this is something that I'm kind of working on and iterating. Static onboarding is really just declaring these two things. So it's saying, hey, static onboarding is a piece of your site. Maybe it's a one-pager in the knowledge base. This can be on a website. It could be an email that everybody receives. It says, hey, here's the map ahead, and here's what you need to do first and how to do it. And if you can take them from the first action to the second, even better. Dynamic onboarding is kind of personalized drip emails, which depends on pretty rich analytics and automation. So that's something that you come back to later as an optimization, or at least that's what I've chosen to do. So the third stage is nurturing. So if the first stage gets you to kind of 40 members with a lot of personal attention, and I should mention that here you're going to make up for the lack of knowledge base and the lack of dynamic onboarding and the lack of a strong heartbeat by being really involved personally. And then your personal engagement is going to help you figure out what's working. And then also you're going to be capturing stuff to later put into systems. So at this point, the heartbeat is really minimal. And this is kind of getting you from 0 to 40 members and up to around 2,000 MRR, depending on your price point, obviously. Your heartbeat here is probably based around content, and probably you don't have a ton of members who you can highlight success stories of yet. So what you're going to do is you're going to create the content that is missing. So you're going to start creating the knowledge base content. You're going to start creating more of the map of the journey ahead. You're going to create explanations about the first actions. You're going to deploy that content as part of your early heartbeat. So once a week or every 2 weeks or however often. People are getting this educational material, but then you're also building toward these other assets that your community requires. And this is what's going to allow you to launch a little bit earlier than you could have otherwise. Cool. So your stage 3 is basically beginning to bring in everything else that the community needs except for advanced automations. So you don't need live events and rituals. Your heartbeat is a choice. This is ABC. This is meant to be a selection. So, for example, in the authors community, we have a ritual and live events, but very little content. Actually, we do all three, if I'm being honest. So, live events are the writing accountability groups and sometimes the guest speakers. Rituals, we set up an accountability robot, which I'll do a whole separate post about later. And then the content is a weekly newsletter, which is primarily functioning to highlight member success. So it acts like a small town newspaper. And at this place, you'll also want to formalize your operational processes because now it's going to start getting too busy for you to be handling reasonably on your own. So you either need a good and efficient playbook for yourself, or you need something where you can start either getting community volunteers or some support staff or something like that. The final stage is where you really get fancy, and I am still not here with the authors community, but this is what we're starting to think about now. So the authors community is now here, and we're beginning to work on this fourth stage, which is the growth kind of beyond 100 engaged members. And at this point, you have to start getting fancy with your content and also with your technology. And if you want, you can start improving the business model with add-ons and all of that. So these are the stages, and I'll talk more. Obviously, I don't expect that this little blurb is enough for you to implement all of this. But if you're at the beginning, this is what I think you should be focusing on. Mapping out your member context, designing your community home. If you've already got that, then it's to start thinking about what is your bare minimum simple onboarding and bare minimum simple heartbeat. And then once that is in play, you can begin getting your first paying members or free members, depending on how you want to do it. And you use personal attention, concierge service, to basically start filling in the pieces for stage 3. But you can do that as you go. You don't need it all in place. All right, awesome. That is the 4 milestones of getting these things up and running. Let me know what you think and what you're going to be doing about it.